Hi guys, welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. We are doing our final analysis part on Twin Mirror. So Jack and I have just finished the game and we're going to tell you everything about our thoughts, what our choices were. I don't know what Jack's done, Jack doesn't know what I've done, so yeah, we're going to discover how our games ended together blind for the first time, so I'm pretty excited to get stuck in. So Jack, we start the episode, we've just left the cove, right? We're talking to Anna and we're going to go off to this drop-off point, right? I'll get straight into it. There's a bit of a car crash because Sam is in turmoil, as he has been before, of trying to listen to Anna, but also listen to, like, his alter ego / whoever the hell this guy in the glasses is, like, because we're not quite sure at this point. That does get revealed later. So Jack, tell us, were you siding with a particular person at this point?
I think at this point I was siding with Anna. I was thinking, almost harkening back to like the section when you was in the car before, on your way to the cove. I found myself sort of like this guy was just constantly in my ear, and I was thinking, yeah, no, I need to lose you now. I need to be here in the present moment. I need to talk to people that are actually there. He did give off this imaginary friend vibe, and I was like, yeah, like I'll side with her. And then of course, yeah, the car crash happens, and then it spills into this sort of like dreamlike sequence.
Yeah, I was kind of similar. Like, I did want to listen to what he had to say, so I actually did. But then, obviously, yeah, as we know, like, he actually almost hinders us in the real world a little bit. So, yeah, and it's really interesting to see how, like, that actually shapes when you get the reveal later on. But yeah, we get this dream sequence, and we'll say it off the bat, mate. Life is strange, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's honestly, I think we could honestly make a video on this, like the amount of similarities that there are between Life is Strange and Twin Mirror. It's very apparent that DontNod have a very specific formula when it comes to making these games. It was obvious where their inspiration was from. But nonetheless, I thought that it was really cool. I think the visuals, as we've said throughout this whole series, have been superb. It's been more nightmarish, this sequence, because obviously your alter ego gets sucked away and it's all like very black and charcoal greys, very dark. You have some of like these exit doors where it's sort of like got that blood red, which I think was really cool. And there is actually a puzzle in there as well that had me for like a little while, but not too long. The one where you're in a square room and you've just got exit doors like wherever you look.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you tackled this, mate, but honestly, for me, I was just hitting random doors, and then when I found that it just got to the point where I was like, right, I'm just coming back into the same room, I ended up just walking straight ahead. And then I think as soon as I did that, Sam come out and said, yeah, that's how you got to do it. You just got to tackle it head on. So I was like, all right, I'll just walk through the first door I see,
Yeah, like, the whole point of that puzzle, I'm pretty sure, is to stick to your gut, so you have to walk through the same door 3 times. Yeah, but it can be any. I picked one on the right. But I just realised if you kept going through the same door, the doors around you reduce. I think that's how that puzzle worked. But I do agree. One thing I do want to say, though, is that I know, like, there's one sort of way to kind of maybe praise the game, be like, oh, it's tipping its hat to Life is Strange, but I don't know, part of me was a bit like, oh, really, again? Like, Life is Strange was inspired by that whole section in Twin Peaks, and then, like, they're doing the same thing again. We've got a dream sequence. Like, we've already had a section where, like, a lot of it felt very reminiscent of the museum of Chloe and Max, but here we're getting kind of, like, looking at memories again. I love the presentation. Like you say, it was really cool to see it was black and red rather than, like, the crystal angelic white we used to seeing. But I was with the section a little like, oh, not again, come on. But I guess it does kind of work when we talk about what actually he is going through. He's trying to find his alter ego person. One thing that I kind of noticed as well is that you see a lot of the things that, for example, like the woodworking that, you sort of burnt earlier. You see, like, the car crash. You see Joan trying to get away. And it kind of makes you think, actually, this Sam isn't kind of like that robotic as we thought. He does kind of have, like, guilt to him, it felt like. So yeah, like, I think this section kind of drawn out and proved to us that Sam did have an emotional side.
Yeah, and honestly, it was quite nice to see them harking back to, important things in that game. And because obviously there are multiple routes. At least I think there are, because there are certain sections where you can go left or you can go right. And I think for me, yeah, like, I remember seeing, the wooden bear. I remember seeing some like road signs at one point. I think I remember seeing like a car, like Nick's car, like looming over the top of the ceiling. So yeah, obviously very similar to Life is Strange. Like when you look at, Max and Chloe and the time and the things that they've done together. So yeah, it was very similar. And to be honest, at this point, I was thinking to myself, does it matter what direction I go? Does going left mean something? Does going right mean something? But I think we've probably figured out, mate, that the 4 endings do seem to come from, the final 2 scenes in this game, which is perhaps something that, we can come back to later on, like whether you think that's a good thing or not.
Yeah, we have this section afterwards where you've got to follow the other person. You're trying to find him. I mean, that's relatively easy. Like I kind of picked a random one, stuck right behind him, and we went through a portal. You get the next section though, where you talk to Nick, Anna, and Joan. That was probably my favourite one out of the 3 because you have to refer to him again, and there's 3 options, and you have to choose the right dialogue. I quite like that one because, for example, like with Anna's, I got it right away because I know the whole thing was about needing to listen to her more. So I picked the one that was like, yeah, you need to listen. So yeah, I really enjoyed that puzzle. I wasn't a big fan of the one afterwards, though, as you say, Jack, where you've just got to pick someone. And I was trying to think, is there a logic to this? Like, maybe the one that's by himself? But now it's just the one that's sat on the bed. And I don't know if there was any rhyme or reason or clue to getting it any closer. I don't know how you thought about these sections yourself, mate.
You know what? It says a lot. I completely forgot about that one. I'm on about the one where you've just got all the versions of him around you, like one sat on the floor, one sat on the bed, one's like looking at, a shelf or something. Completely forgot about that one because there's just no logic to it. And again, at this point, I was thinking, is this important? And once you click on the one you want to use, and it doesn't progress with the game, you're like, well, it's clearly not that one then. So you then just move along one and select that. Oh, it's not that one then. Do you know what I mean? It just carries on like that. So it does pull you out a little bit, and it does feel like it's just eating away at, the time played. So that one was, definitely the weakest one. And I'd probably go as far as to say that the ones earlier on in the game, the one where you're getting chased, you've got to like dodge the doors.
Yeah.
Even the one where you're like the Dennis zombies, I like to call them, they're walking towards you. I think they were better mini games than a couple of the ones that were in here. So I don't know if they were just like running out of ideas at this point, but yeah, like I feel like that section could have been trimmed down a little bit, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I completely get you. The whole thing culminates to revealing who this person actually was. So, I mean, I might be wrong, but my understanding of it is that you see your young self, you hear your parents arguing, and talking about how Sam's messed up or wrong or like not normal because he's got imaginary friends. And it's almost like you've crafted this imaginary friend or alter ego that can handle society because Sam's not great with people, but you've got this other version of herself that kind of makes you level-headed or a version that's better for society that can fit in. So it's almost like him is a version that people would like more of himself, but his true self, Sam, is kind of like what he wants, but people might not necessarily like that. Yeah. So it's almost a bit like I guess you could say a head v heart thing, kind of more like what's a good way of putting it? Probably like a true self versus nicer version that people would probably warm to more. I don't know. Would you say that's kind of what happened back there?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, without getting too deep into it, because you could look on it on quite like a philosophical, / psychological level. But yeah, I mean, in a way, aren't we all sort of battling that that sort of like duality in our own lives? You do have a true self, and then I think we all have to admit in our own lives we all maybe playing a part is like a little bit extreme, but we do change our attitudes according to who we're with, right? If you go for an interview,
you have to put a mask on, yeah.
yeah, like if you go to an interview, like you're gonna put a different self out than to how you are with like your partner or your family, or if you're with your friends, and do you know what I mean? Like we all do it, and sometimes like if you do that so much, you can get lost as to like, who you actually are and stuff. So I think on a deeper level, it's like a really good thing, and I think like the way they displayed it, obviously the game's called Twin Mirror as well. It was pretty cool. Mate, to like get obviously to the bit where you're like facing your twin and you're like just talking things over. I ultimately chose. Is it like it's him or the Mind Palace, right?
Yeah.
I ended up choosing the Mind Palace. I think it ultimately was because it's like what I've said already. He needs to sort of like lose the shackles of this imaginary friend of his. I feel like it was more. I think being true to yourself is more important than being, accepted by others, I guess, was my logic there. No matter what flaws and what negative consequences of it comes, I think you need to be happy within yourself. So yeah, that's why I picked the Mind Palace. But what about you?
Snap here. I also picked the Mind Palace. I thought that I don't know. I guess like it's what you said. He was saying stuff like, "Oh, it never feels authentic," and I guess it kind of felt like truth versus comfort. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, this is a murder game. It is about a case. I want truth. So I just was all out like, yeah, maybe it's time that we drop our imaginary self, that practical version. Maybe it's time we adopt that ourselves more, rather than kind of using this kind of like friends kind of like, analogy. So I thought, yeah, I'll go with stick to yourself more. Whether it was a mistake or not, I wasn't sure at this point, but I think it's the one that I would have done myself, so that I guess that's why I picked that. So we're on the same path now, so it's like 50-50 whether we got the same ending at this point, I guess, rather than, 1 in 4. Yeah. Afterwards, we get back to the point and, we're trying to find Anna, who, like we've left while we've had our massive daydream sequence. She's just gone straight to it. We find her later and you're looking for this USB stick. Did you find this with relative ease, mate?
Yeah, I think to be fair, it was actually the last place I looked, because the direction you come from, you can, look at the telephone box, you can look at something else. I even looked back at the tree. I wanted to see if, like, almost for you, like the achievement I was on about.
Yeah.
Like the moss thing. I was like, I wonder if that's gettable, and it didn't look like it was. So, but yeah, then I found the USB in the food bank. And then, of course, our guilty party arrives, doesn't he, Declan?
He does, and I guess the game sort of like ends around here, really. Like this kind of really gets to the nitty-gritty conclusion of things, and to be honest, I feel like I wish the drug ring thing was touched on more, because it just kind of felt like it came back out of nowhere, and I wanted to kind of learn more about that. But yeah, like we've got this whole Declan who's like, oh yeah, like I've got to kill you. You guys are accomplices. I've got to kill you like I killed the others. And then it goes into a struggle, which, by the way, I really didn't like Anna for doing this. I was like, why are you running after a man with a gun? Like, surely we need to negotiate our way out of this. I guess, though, that is a choice itself, because I've heard that you can negotiate yourself out of this, and Declan can not. I don't know if he gives up his gun or you can soften him up a bit, but I do know you can get a good ending with dialogue here. In short, did you get that ending?
No, and I'm now very interested as to what that looks like. So the whole sequence that follows, you can avoid it.
I don't know if you avoid it, but I do know that there's a trophy called Master Negotiator, and you do get rewarded somehow for saying the right stuff.
Wow. Oh, that's quite interesting. I'd want to go back and play that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that I didn't get that, mate. No.
So I guess we have the scuffle. Now, long story short, Anna can die here if you pick the wrong stuff. Now there's 3 sort of choices, that you have to do one after the other. But unlike the other ones, you can't go back. So once you've decided what you do in your first one, you have to lock it in, and then you have to go for your second one. But You know, one thing that is really interesting that I did learn is that if you keep him, which we both didn't, is that you can ask him for advice and he'll tell you which one the right ones are. So there is a massive advantage that we never got. We never got any hints which he was throwing to us before, like he did with certain scenes with dialogue. So yeah, before we get into the nitty gritty, mate, I just wanted to ask if you knew about that and what your opinion of that is.
I didn't know, but like I say, I mean, because that's the thing, I've not actually looked at what all the other endings look like. I mean, I can hazard a guess as to what they entail, but no, I definitely didn't know about that, because I am actually going to go back and do another playthrough of this game. I think there's an achievement where, like, you ultimately choose him, and you have to make like 60% of the social decisions or something like that, like littered throughout the game. So I'm ultimately going to replay it and do all that and get all the collectibles and stuff. But no, nice little detail that I wouldn't have expected. But at the same time, given the outcome that I got, it's more satisfying that I did it by myself.
Oh, okay. I mean, go for it, mate. Let us know what you did. So, like, there's the first decision where you've got to throw a rock, go for them, or go for the gun, I believe. What did you pick here?
Yeah, so a lot of umming and ahhing during this section because I knew that the stakes were on the line. I was like, right, end of the game. You know, any mistakes made now, it could be costly. So yeah, like you say, the rock, running towards Anna to, you know, tackle the guy or to grab the gun. I think it was that I spoke to Dennis, who's like stood by the tree, and he said that he's not really gonna, he's still got his gun from earlier on, so he's not really going to be bothered about the police gun, because obviously that can be traced and so forth, and he wants to cover his tracks. So I thought it's probably not going to be the gun. And I don't know what it was. It was just such an oddball thing with like this rock. And obviously, like if you pick the rock, it says, oh, it could disorientate him. So I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'll go for the rock. And it did. It played out. You throw the rock. Anna falls to the ground. I'm pretty sure she gets shot. I'm not confident on that because she's like clutching her shoulder. And then obviously it pauses again, and you've then got another choice, which is, because obviously you're by the tree, is that he's either going to attack you, attack Anna, or go for the gun. Again, I ruled out the gun because I was thinking he's already got one on him. He doesn't want to use the police gun, like I said already, for tracing and stuff. And then when I spoke to, I think Dickie was there, he said if he's going to go for anyone, he's going to go for Anna because she's the one that has the USB. And I think that her dad, or was it Nick, he said that we need to get Anna out of the mess. So I was thinking, right, even though it makes sense for him to go for me, because I'm the one that's tackled him, she's on the floor, I think he's going to go for Anna. So I picked that. It turns out he does go for Anna. You then sort of tackle him a bit, and then it brings on to the third sequence, which is obviously the you either tackle him when he's got the gun, you run to the telephone booth, or, you know, to call for help. So my logic here was like, going for the phone's just going to be stupid because the gun's pointed right at you, he'll just shoot you in the back of the head. I thought dodging behind the tree, the reason I didn't pick that one was because I spoke to Joe, Anna's dad, and I think he said that we need him to keep our eyes on us, otherwise he'll just turn around and go for Anna. So I was thinking, right, it's that classic thing of, you know, you got to face it head on, you know, like the game's been constantly telling you. So I was like, right, I'm going to fight the guy. And then it brought a situation where we had a bit of a tussle. It gave time for Anna to go grab the gun. She then shot at Declan, and then Declan fell off the cliff and died. And then because of that, I think then Sam then went to the phone and called for help because Anna did get shot. She got shot in the shoulder. And then obviously because of that, you know, she was then saved. And yeah, that was basically that, mate.
So yeah, I can tell you for now though that I'm kind of glad you said that because we are going to get two very different endings because Anna did not make it in my game, mate.
Wow.
So, yeah, I guess like it's weird. I'm kind of glad it happened because it's kind of like a sad but a bittersweet ending in a way because there is a silver lining as well, as we'll come to sort of realize. But yeah, I guess I went with throw the rock. This was a bit of a I don't know what to do. A lot of my decisions I asked the stream because I was like, guys, what are we doing? A second one. I think this is the one I probably got wrong because I threw the rock. I don't know if that's the right choice or not. To this day, I still really don't know what I should have done otherwise. But now that I've heard yours, I guess now I do know. So for the second one, this is where I went completely wrong. I just took it really logically. I was like, if this man's smart, he's got a girl on the floor who's just been shot, he's going to come for me regardless. Yeah. Like, that's what he should do. So I guess I just was like, well, yeah, he's going to come for me, so I need to go around the other way. And then obviously that gave him another opening to give Anna another gunshot. And then when it came to gun in my face, I was like, well, it's not going to be that because like I'm going to get shot if that happens because he's aiming a gun right at me. I was like, why would you go to the phone when I'm just turning my back to him when he's got a gun aiming right at me? It just didn't make any sense to me. So I thought it was to like jump behind the tree. That just seemed like the most logical thing to do to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, like it does work, but he shoots the phone. So yeah, like the phone ends up broken. But it does give Anna a window to shoot Declan and kill him. But I guess because the phone was broken, I couldn't call for help, so Anna bled out, I guess. So it's one of those ones where I looked at it in the stream. I was like, I don't think the decisions have to be totally logical, where I just went with my gut and it didn't pay off. So, you know, I can take that in stride. But yeah, like it was certainly interesting to play, and part of me is glad I just went with my gut. You know, one reason I love these games, right, is living with your consequences. So it was kind of cool to kind of get that ending. But yeah, like I just honestly went with what I would have picked in a real life scenario, and maybe it was harsh on Anna or whatever, but I was like, yeah, like he's gonna go for me next. He's put a bullet in one. Logically, he'd put a bullet in the other person next. But yeah, like it is what it is. I've got to live with my mistakes. So yeah, at this point, Anna was dead for me, mate.
Wow. So, I mean, thinking about where my story went, I'd like to know how different the next part was for you. Like...
Yeah, so this is the whole graveyard scene, right?
Right, okay.
Where does yours end in a different place?
It does. Yeah, it ends at Anna's house. So...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically how it goes is you arrive... you walk there, and a lot of the characters are at this location. Who was there? Obviously, Joe was there. Walter was there. Kathy was there. Joan was there. Bess, you know, the policewoman, she was there, and obviously Anna was there. So they're the people that were at the thing. And I just went round talking to all of them. Joe was obviously grateful, you know, that I looked out for her. We ended on good terms. Walter, he told me that he was going to retire, that he was going to give up the newspaper. He didn't want to, you know, carry on with it. He'd run out of steam, basically. Very funny ending with Kathy, though. Because, you know, she's just having a little bit of a conversation. His choice comes up, and it's like, it said that she either needed to get help with her addiction, or that, you know, Joan isn't the problem, or something along those lines. And I thought that he would put it a little bit more diplomatically, a little bit more, you know, nicely. So I chose like the get help with your addiction thing, you know, as if to say, like, if you get yourself sorted, you know, Joan will come round, everything will be fine. But it turned a little bit nasty. Like, she said, "Oh, you've always been too brutal to me, Sam. You know, if you leave this time, make sure you leave for good. You know, don't come back in our lives." So me and her ended on bad terms. And then I spoke to Bess. She's obviously a bit regretful that, you know, she didn't notice that Declan ran the drug ring. And then I spoke to Anna, and we basically ended on good terms as well. You know, sort of said a little bit of, oh, what are you going to do now, this and that. And then you ultimately go to walk off back to your car, and then you run into another character, and it was Hugh. And he's dressed up very smart in a suit, and he starts talking, and then he says something about the common good. And I don't know, the way this was panning out, he mentioned the common good, right? And then it went into this sort of section where, like, there was Dickie, and there was Kathy, and there was Joan. And for a split second I was thinking, are we going to get some like Hot Fuzz type ending where they're all going to be like wearing cloaks going, you know, the greater good and, you know, the common good and all that sort of thing? But they all sort of like merged into him, and I was thinking, damn, like Liam's thing's going to be right, because, you know, when Declan come up, it said that he wasn't the mastermind. So basically, yeah, to cut a long story short, you probe him, he says, oh, you're talking nonsense, but ultimately he comes round and he essentially admits to it. But then there's a final choice, which I thought was really interesting. And he basically said, there's a reason why Nick didn't, you know, publish the story sooner. It's because I paid him off. And he basically said, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay quiet and ensure that Kathy still has a job, that Joan still has a future? And he was just basically saying all these things, and, you know, the possibilities that people won't believe you. Or do you want to... What was the other thing? You basically you had to accept or refuse his proposal. And, you know, or you could refuse it and basically be like, no, I'm going to write this story and this and that. Or you could accept it and be like, you know what, he's a bad man, but, you know, other people's lives are important as well. I just straight up refused it. I thought, no, fuck you, I'm going to go write the story. And then it literally plays out with the end scene of like Sam driving off, leaving Basswood. There's a bit of a newspaper article, and presumably Hugh has been taken down. So, yeah, bit of a monologue there, mate. But how did it compare with your ending?
Yeah, no, I mean, it does sound like the endings are very much carbon copy, but with a different location. So I had all the same people and the same dialogue, but mine happened in a graveyard where people were just sad as it happened. So, like, you know, one thing that I thought was really interesting is it suddenly turned into those Sherlock games where you look at the people and it had all these traits about, you know, deduction things of like, oh, this person's worried, this person's anxious, like Bess is trying to cover up for like Declan's mistakes, but she's worried about her re-election chances, for example. And I thought, like, where was this all game? I really like this feature, but it just happened right at the end of the conclusion. I was like, more of this, please. I really like that kind of feature. But yeah, really interesting. And, you know, I had the same thing with Kathy, where I was really brutal with her as well about the drug things, but I think it was a harsh truth she needed to hear. But yeah, it's funny because I had one final showdown with not Walter, what's his name? Hugh, where, like, he was kind of comforting the lady who owns the cafe. I can't remember her name, Catherine maybe. And the deduction thing said something along the lines of like pretending to care or something. I went, that's a bit dodgy.
Right.
I was like, I don't like that. But I was like, regardless though, like it looked like the game was coming to an end. Obviously, the last person you talk to is Joe, who's at the coffin, really sad. And he's not really happy with me. But at the end of the day, I never promised that, you know, I would keep his daughter alive. So at least I kept my word. No blood on my hands, thank you very much. Your daughter's your own person. So yeah, but either way, you kind of... I think Walter gives a speech, and then when he finishes, Hugh kind of stands up and says, oh, I'd like to say some words. And then he talks about, like, the common good as well. And instead of him admitting it to you, he kind of just looks at you really ominously. and you're at the back of the pack looking at him, and you kind of deduct it yourself, where you, as you say, the three become one, and Sam kind of clocks it on himself and puts two and two together. And it's really weird because I was there, like, in the stream, dancing all happy, like, I knew it! I knew he was the mastermind! I called it! And, like, I was really happy, but then I was like, oh, I am at a funeral. I should probably calm down a little bit. But yeah, regardless, yeah, I don't know. I guess, like, it's like I say, bittersweet ending. It's sad I killed Anna. It's one of those ones where with these Don't Nod games where it's like, you know, it's give and take. So it's like, I saved Kate Marsh in Life is Strange. I wasn't able to save Anna in, you know, this game, and it's like vice versa for you, you know.
Yeah.
Just like you win some, you lose some. I took it in stride, but I was really happy that I called the Hugh thing because it's the whole thing with like Dickie walking out the pharmacy, the drugstore owner being unconscious at the wheel. I was like, yeah, I completely like, you know, I thought that could be a possibility, so I was really glad that happened. And playing Life is Strange as well really helped me because, like, as you mentioned, like, at the start you have the three suspects, and I was like, I reckon they're doing a Mr. Jefferson where, like, the lead suspect one is actually the big villain. You know, where we had Declan the miner and, Dennis the miner and Hugh. So yeah, that happened. One thing I didn't really clock on was all the, like, the common good. I think that was supposed to be a really, like, key thing of everyone constantly saying the common good. That went over my head. But yeah, I was really happy that I caught that. You mentioned a choice at the end of the game, though, where you can accept or refuse him. I never got that, and I don't know if that's because of, like, my ending being different, where Anna wasn't alive, it was at a funeral, and it was in different circumstances. But Sam just drove away, and I don't know if it cuts to the future, but it basically had the ending that you had, where there's the news report in the newspaper, and there's a whole news article about how, yeah, there's this drug ring and a pharmacist is, you know, like, behind it. So clearly, like, I walk away, I've solved the case, but yeah, like, it's just a bittersweet because, you know, we lost people, one of them being Anna along the way. So I guess we roughly got the same ending, just with a character being alive or dead.
Yeah, it's interesting you didn't get a choice. I mean, obviously, it probably would have made less sense because you're literally at a graveyard surrounded by people and stuff. So you literally heard his speech, walked off, and then clearly Sam went and did the story anyway. Whereas for me,
yeah, skips time ahead, and then yeah, but yeah, I never got a choice. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I'm keen to see what the other ones look like, especially now what you said. You know, if you keep him alive, and you know how it plays out in the final section, especially the negotiating one. That seems pretty cool as well. But yeah, like we said before, it seems very much that the endings of basically whether Anna dies or not, and whether you choose him or whether you choose the Mind Palace, and then it's just like a mix and match of all of those things. But I mean, yeah, I mean that's literally the end of Twin Mirror, isn't it, mate? I mean, almost to like wrap up with then, would you say that, I mean, how much did you spend on this game? Was it like a £5, wasn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was around that. Yeah, I used a key for it. So yeah, I paid a lot cheaper than I could have.
Would you say that, you know, would you say that you've enjoyed playing this game? Would you recommend it to other people? And maybe like we can talk about very, you know, quickly the pros and cons of this game. I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, of course. So like, I mean, yeah, I would say it's a fun little game. It's probably got a little bit of replayability value, like maybe just to see the different endings, get your collectibles. But I'm not gonna lie, I look back at the whole game and I'm not keen to get right back on it. There are certain scenes that I'd be a bit like, oh really, I've got to go all the way around here again. It was very much like a nice experience, but one that I don't think was going to be very like memorable in the future. Like, I'm not going to be talking about this game in 10 years, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It was a really fun experience. I'm really glad I played it. But like, you know, the other day in the Q&A, someone asked us what our top 5 games were. This is definitely not making the top 5. You know, I don't think it's breaking into the top 10. But then again, I didn't hate it. It was like, it was a very nice experience. It did a lot of stuff different that I've never seen before. I liked some of the characters. Had a few flaws here and there. Like I say, there were slow burner moments. Some of the animations weren't brilliant. A lot of the characters I wanted to see more of. And I guess I wanted more out of the mystery in the case. I wanted to know more about the drug ring. I still to this moment think the whole Declan thing is a little bit of a moment. I don't know. But you know what it's like when you solve something, there is that rewarding feeling. So like, although I killed the girl, I can pat myself on the back that, I knew something was off with Hugh. So yeah, like, it's been an absolute pleasure playing this game. But yeah, like, in summary, not one I'm quick to revisit though. How about yourself, Jack?
Yeah, so obviously, speaking for me, I mean, I bought this off the Xbox Marketplace for like 25 quid. So I don't know where that, if in the US, that'll be about like $30 or whatever. But yeah, I think you're right. In terms of replayability, maybe it's sort of something we can do in a different video, but like, I'll be keen to like gauge people's opinions, and it comes back to this whole choice-based branching element of it. Are you happy with the fact that, it was linear throughout, at least that's what it seems, and then only the endings are different? Or, do you want sort of like that sort of like branching within the game as well? So maybe we can like bank that, mate. In terms of like I'll go with like the cons first. For me, it did feel a little bit abrupt, the ending. I feel like there could have been a longer playtime on this. I did look at it. It looked like it was about 6 hours, and I was actually surprised by that. I felt like there was a little bit more storytelling that could have been done. I feel like for me personally, like, I don't know what happened to like Ethan and Tara and a couple of the other characters in the game. Like, literally, they just didn't show up again in like the final third. I never saw them again, which is obviously a little bit disappointing. Obviously, there's a lot of nods to Life is Strange. You could say that is a bit of a negative because it's regurgitating the same stuff. But honestly, like, there's lots of pros. I thought that, I was engaged with the plot throughout. I think visually the game is very, very good. I think that the gameplay aspects to it, like the reconstruction, some of the little puzzles where you have to like find a code, or you have to look around the room to solve something, that was good. The variety in locations, again, really good. And you know what? Like, for that sort of, for that 6 hours, it did a job. Is it going to be something that competes with Until Dawn? No. But as a nice little choice-based game, I think it overall delivered. So I'd say if you haven't played it, if you've got the money, certainly go and get it.
I do certainly agree. Those crime scenes that we had with, especially the one with the car, that might be my favourite scene in the whole game.
Yeah.
Working that out, yeah, like, absolutely brilliant. And honestly, I wish we had more of it. And I completely agree what you mean about the whole abrupt ending. I felt like the moment the Cove ended, I felt like we could have done with a bit more of that, but it just went straight to the dream sequence and the ending, with the drop point and the funeral / Anna's house or whatever. So yeah, like, definitely abrupt. Could have done with a bit longer playtime, but nonetheless, no, it was a fun little experience. So I'm glad we've, played it and added it to our arsenal of the many games we've played here on the channel. So yeah, but I also want to say that I feel like I can't judge it too early either, because I want to look at these endings.
Yeah.
And see how much of an impact our choices throughout the game, like you say, had an impact on the ending and the wider story. So that, is something that, we should get knuckled down with at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing else to say, mate, if we wanted to wrap it up.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining us, guys, for our analysis of the Twin Mirror series. We've enjoyed playing this. We hope you guys have enjoyed hearing our choices and, everything about. Let us know what you thought of the game. Let us know what your choices were on your blind playthrough. Anything to add, Jack?
No, happy to wrap up, mate.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you very much for joining, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye for now.